Welcome to Beyond X's and O podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petralis, and we are really excited to be doing our first episode here, our pilot episode. And, we have a really special guest in store for you guys today, someone that I think will, be a real inspiration, and just listening to will make young coaches really motivated, and coaches that have been doing it for a while really take out their notepads and listen. So, why did I start this? Well, I'm a 15-year educator. I'm a fifth grade elementary school teacher. But within those 15 years, I also got into the world of coaching high school football. And I started out as, a freshman assistant to a varsity assistant to a varsity defensive coordinator, and then eventually becoming a head coach. So the one thing I've learned when people ask me about my coaching career is, well, how was it? Tell me about your coaching career. And I split it up into two parts, right? So I split it up into part one is what I just mentioned to you. As a freshman coach, a varsity assistant, and a defensive coordinator, because in those positions, you just focus on the X's and O's. You focus on grinding in the film room, making sure that players are prepared, always having scripts ready to go for practice, doing a lot of film watching. I mean, really doing everything it takes to put the product on the field better. And as a coordinator, you're looking at packages, you're looking at depth charts, you're looking for your positional coaches. So everything is on the field, making the players better. And then I explained to people the second part of my coaching career is when you become a head coach. And not only are you worried about everything that I just mentioned, but you're also worried about boosters and parents and alumni and off-season conditioning programs and dealing with equipment and ordering things and getting your scrimmages in store and getting your games in store, and then dealing with parents maybe with different issues with kids are going on in school or what's going on in personal life. And on top of it, your occupation or whatever it is that you're doing. So it is just a lot for a head coach to handle. And so when I explained both of those jobs, I think when I became a head coach, the one thing I realized was, man, I just can't worry about the X's and O's anymore. I got to worry about everything else. So, I was lucky in my coaching career to coach under such a great man. And that's, who our first guest is going to be. This guy is, if you talk about Massachusetts high school football, everybody knows this person's name. He was recently, as of 2 years ago or a year ago, inducted into the Massachusetts High School Coaches Football Hall of Fame. Well-deserved over, many years of coaching, and a big mentor in my life, somebody who, I go to about a lot of things and has always been there for me and just shows what a coach does beyond. He coached me, I coached with him, and I'm just so lucky to have him on the show. I just want to welcome our first guest ever on our Beyond X's and O podcast, Serge Clivio. Serge, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and doing this. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of, I'm proud of, number one, as you know, the young man that you have become, the man that you've become. And the kind of person you are. But this is a great thing you're doing, and I'm so happy to be part of it.
Awesome. And I appreciate that, Coach. I really do. I think this is great for, coaches have been doing it for a while, coaches that are just starting out, or coaches that are looking to make that climb, not just in football, but in any sport, to just really hear about the thought and the ideas and, the process that goes into running a program for sure. And I just think that you're such a great guy for people to listen to, and how you've done it and done it the right way, that this is something that should be heard amongst a lot of coaches. So, Coach, give me a little bit of a background. Give your audience here a little bit of a background of your coaching career, what you've done, different sports that you've coached, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I started as a young teacher right out of college, Anthony, and I was at St. Mary's of Lynn for 2 years when I started, and I was lucky enough to get asked to help with the football team there, coach with Mike Noonan, a great salty old Irishman who, taught me football, from the hard-nosed, hard-grinding, taught me single-wing football from the beginning. And so I learned a little bit about that for 2 years. And then I moved to Arlington Catholic, where, I had many members of my family went. I'm a Metro High grad myself, but many of my brothers and sisters went to Arlington Catholic. I actually had a sister there when I started teaching there. But I started teaching Arlington Catholic, and again got asked to coach football with the legendary Don Stevens. And Don was such an inspiration to so many people and so many kids. Don, more than anything, taught kids to believe in themselves. And that's what I learned from Don. More important, I mean, he's a great X's and O guy. His mind was full of information, and I would just probe that information. And, I can't say he was the most organized person in the world or any of that, but boy, he knew football and he knew how to get the most out of kids, out of young student athletes. He knew how to talk to them, how to encourage them, and how to, challenge them and make them believe in themselves. So, after I was lucky enough, actually, when I took over in 1990, after 6 years working with Don, a couple of years later, a few years later, Don Stevens came back. He had retired, but he came back and he had coached at, I think, St. Clemens and came back and helped out. So,
and Coach, can I just say, for those that are listening, when Coach Clivio talks about the type of man that he is and the type of man that he was, Coach before the start of every season would visit his gravesite and would visit another coach, Kenny Colbert's
Kenny
gravesite.
Colbert, that's right.
So when Serge is, when Coach is really here talking about, these guys, I mean, these guys meant a lot to him. He's to this day visits them. And so I just think that it's important for the audience to hear that when he's talking about integrity and how to, work with young men and to shape and mold them, he means it.
A great group of people, like I said, Don Stevens and Kenny Colbert, who was the funniest person I ever met, but was a taskmaster as a coach too. And Ernie Adelino, the great Ernie Adelino, Ernie who, has had a massive career as a baseball coach and basketball coach and coaching with me in football for many, many years. Again, it was just such a great experience learning from them and then having some of them coach with me after, which was great. And so I went from that. So as I said, I took over in 1990. I was left with a solid group of young men, and and so I started that. I started with a lot of the standard stuff, but put my own little spin on it. But I think back then it was defense first and hard-nosed football. That's what I learned, and that's how it started. So.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that just know how some great offenses that Serge has had over the years and points that he's put on the board, defense is what I really learned from him and really took a liking to, because everybody loves the side of the ball that scores points and catches touchdowns and runs for big touchdowns. But the other side of stopping that and grinding and really it's like a game of chess out there in a way. So Serge is a great defensive coach. And, so yeah, in the 90s. So, here's my question to you. And I always love talking to you about this. So in the 90s, obviously you talked about running a single wing, and then you ran some I and power I. But then in 2003, you kind of transformed your offense a little bit into making it more of a spread system under center, but you were one of the first high schools in Massachusetts to really kind of commit to this. So what made you decide to change that?
It's really a funny thing. I had been through some hard, tough seasons. We hadn't had winning seasons in a few years. And I said, I thought I've got to go. I have to find something that will add a little spark to this. Maybe something that could, inspire me, inspire my coaches, and inspire the players. And I went to a couple of different clinics, and I saw what's called the super back under center plan, which I had the great young Ernie Adelino as a running back and used him in that. And that was sort of a spread one back offense with some motion. And it was the first introduction to spread in that sense. And then from there, I started going to some of these no huddle clinics. And again, no one was really using it at that time. Now, of course, everybody uses it. Right, but I remember that Peter Flynn from Billerica, Coach Flynn, the great Coach Flynn from Billerica, and myself, we started using some of this no huddle spread stuff. And I along with that, so in this one sort of season, I went from this super back spread proposal to this spread no huddle offense with a 2 platoon system. And that was a high risk. But I said, we have to give it a whirl. And it might be a way to get more players out. And amazingly, it took like a year to turn it around, and committed kids to learning one side of the ball, except for the real superior athletes who but even they didn't. I mean, I had players who went and played college football, Ryan McGuire at Holy Cross, etc., who hardly played any offense, played defense. He was an academic All-American tight end at Holy Cross. But I had great athletes who played sparingly on one side maybe, but really committed to learning one side of the ball. And committed to a no-huddle, fast-paced offense, and had to get a few more coaches involved, and obviously because you need coaches at every position on every aspect of it, and it paid off, and I think it paid off because I think it was just something different. We committed to it, and even though it was a little slow to start, we made the commitment and said, "This is what we got to do."
So,
and so
so what would you say, coaches? So when you switch to that type of system, I mean, you're going from one extreme to another, and the first position that pops into my head is quarterback. So how do you go about assessing a quarterback in that system? Because for the most part, you had a guy under center that would maybe throw the ball, 8 to 10 times a game, and you handed the ball off a lot.
Right.
So now somebody who really has the ball in his hands every play, and you're throwing the ball a little bit more because you're spreading defenses out.
Yeah, and I always like to throw the ball, at least the illusion of throwing the ball to run the ball. But this became, if you had athletes who could get the ball in their hands quickly and get a quarterback to get the ball out of their hand quickly, you could spread the field, and it also opened great lanes for your running game. I found, and wow, and so it improved. And a lot of people say, well, you don't run the ball, you throw the ball. The running back said, we're averaging, when we started doing this, I saw my running backs average, and it was really running 2 or 3 plays. That's it. Inside zone, trap, counter, whatever. And, that they were averaging 7-8 yards a carry because everyone was worried about the spread and throwing the ball. So, but the quarterbacks have to be trained. They have to be committed. They have to be committed to learning. They have to be committed to, off season, going to quarterback stuff, things like that. And, I was lucky enough to have those kind of guys who did. And, a great, like Pat Franey was a person who didn't play a lot until his senior year. He went through the process of learning the game and ended up having, being an all-scholastic quarterback. And then Matt Oliveira, who threw 34 touchdown passes, again, he didn't play. He played defensive back as a junior. He played a lot of quarterback on JV, but he learned the game and he worked at it, wanted to be a quarterback, and spent a lot of time working at it, and that was great. And then Corey Spencer was right on the heels of him, another great quarterback. I think Corey through 28.
Yeah, Super Bowl champion
led
quarterback.
Us to the Super Bowl, right? And threw for 200 yards in the Super Bowl. So, I was lucky enough to get people who were committed. You have to have a quarterback who's committed to that system, committed to learning it, committed to understanding it. Some are different than others. Some quarterbacks are more throwers, some are better runners, some are, great read option guys, ROP guys, things like that. So, but it inspired a much faster paced practice, a much, and we could get much more done and so much more teaching done doing that at the time.
Yeah.
But it's not again, it's not easy. Sometimes you don't have a guy who can throw the ball. Well, what can you do?
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that's it, right? With a spread, you're kind of early on, you are handcuffed with the quarterback, right? One way or the other, and you have to play to your quarterback's abilities. And I've seen you do over the years a really good job, like you said, having quarterbacks that can really spread the ball across the field, but also having quarterbacks that are very mobile and being able to just put some window dressing in, some motions, moving sets around and just trying to outnumber guys to the point of attack or something you've always done a great job at. So I know you love talking offense, but I know secretly you love talking defense a lot more. So
it's funny. I just say that, Anthony, going back, those great quarterbacks, I said, none of them were super fast.
Right.
None of them were super fast, but they were great runners. They were smart. And that was the biggest thing. They could read a defense and they could put a ball. And when you could teach them, you could teach them to read a defense. Same thing. Brian O'Donnell wasn't a great thrower, but tough as nails, and led the team to a great season. Ricky Douglas wasn't a great thrower, but a great runner. and him and Charlie Bates could, go back and forth, and again led to a great season.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to have if your quarterback can run, he doesn't have to be a great thrower. You can find a lot of open guys by creating a great running game.
Mm-hmm.
So
excellent. And so I'm going to flip to the other side of the ball. And I guess I'll ask you the same philosophical question. Obviously in the 90s, I know you were a big 4-3 guy, Miami, the U, and everybody wanted to be like the U or have a defense like the U. Did you transform the way you thought on defense at all as you gained more and more in your head coaching career?
And as I said, in the 90s, I saw that. I went to a clinic, and I went to and I met with Miami coaches and talked about their defense and how they ran it. And I saw that we weren't as big and giant. We had some speed. I had a great middle linebacker, the young guy Frankie Burke, who was a great linebacker. And I didn't have a lot of other, size at linebacker, but I had some smart, quick kids. And I saw Miami use, really undersized guys who were tough and fast and stuff like that. And so I said, if you could teach kids to really play basic and understand it, the 4-3 worked. The problem became, I think, with the 4-3, Anthony, is teams started going double tight. You remember the years. The Fenwick was great, right, and they had double tight, triple I, that stack offense.
Yeah, and you double tight, double wings.
A 4-3 in there and try to stop it.
Right.
You had to get more guys in the box and more guys in the box. So, yeah, and I've always said that defense really, it doesn't. I think you have to find the defense that you love, because you can always get guys into the box, or you can get enough players there. Defense you love with the players you have, commit to it, believe in it, because football still is about, and always was and always will be about, pursuit, physicality, and tackling.
That's it.
Right. And so as long as you they know the gaps, they know what they're responsible for, and you simplify it for them, and all those gaps are taken care of, and they run to the ball, and they can tackle, and they like to hit. You're gonna have a good team. I don't think it matters what defense you run.
Right. And that's what I learned from you a lot, especially in my coaching career, as I got more defensive minded, was, the two things that I took so valuable at practice was pursuit. We used to do pursuit a lot. And even when I took over as head coach, that was one of the first things we did every single day of practice was pursuit. We had barrels lined up. We had cones lined up. The balls were flying everywhere. And we were watching guys' angles, and we taped it. And we would, on huddle, we'd be circling guys and ripping them for their hustle or their poor angle. And, once kids realize you're paying attention to that stuff, you see the product on the field and in the game film a lot better. But the second thing that I really took from you was look at teams and what they want to run and take away their best 3 plays. So really teaching you how to track plays and follow sets and say to yourself, they come out in this set, what plays do they want to run? When they come out in this set, what do they want to run? And what are they running most frequently? So what are we going to take away and saying, you're not beating us with this, this, and this? And those were 2 things that, when I coach defenses, were just automatics that kids knew they needed to have good pursuit angles and hustle to the football. And kids knew that when they saw sets, they better be yelling stuff out in practice. Watch this, watch that, because there's nothing more intimidating as a quarterback or an offensive line as you're getting down and they're in a set and you're like, watch blast, watch ISO, watch toss, watch bootleg. And the whole offense is looking at each other like they know exactly what we want to do out of this. And that's an intimidation factor. So, I learned so much defense from you. And when I was there, we ran a lot of 3-4, and a lot of that was we had a lot of speed, and we had a lot of, depth on our D line. And, the key to 3-4, is having a strong nose and having 2 good middle linebackers. If you have that triangle, your defense, everything else falls into place pretty well.
Yeah, in 2008, when we had, Steve Pagliacca, Zach Bates was only a freshman.
Yeah.
But those guys had great instincts.
Yeah, Peter Gonchar knows, and
Steve Cairns, and and Anthony, and some of those guys, they just had that physicality, that mentality. They just had to be taught their responsibility, what it means to set an edge, things like that. But you're right, the it doesn't really, you have to find what you love as a defense and say, okay, can I put my kids in that defense? Will it work if I teach it this way? And if you're committed to it, if you believe that and you're committed to it, then definitely that's the way you do it, because there's no other way.
And
Football will always be about that.
Right. And we coached together for a long time. So I felt like after a while, it was things that I knew that you were already thinking or things that you wanted to do. And I didn't even have to ask, so a lot of that philosophical stuff, a lot of the way of thinking of saying, if you want to run this, can you realistically be this? Do you have the personnel to be this? And the other flip side to it as coaches, and you had mentioned talking a little bit about switching to spread, and you had mentioned, it's also teaching coaches and having good coaches around you. So what is your process, or what was your process of hiring coaches? What did you look for in your coaches? Was there something specific that you always kind of looked for?
Well, if I first and foremost, Anthony, if I could find alumni who understood what we wanted to do, what it really was about, who understood what coaching football was really about, outside just the coaching, but the teaching and how you're a teacher. If we could find people who would do that and understood it and wanted, and process that, and I could get them to coach, that'd be great. So I've had many great alumni like yourself, like Ainsley Rosenbaum, who has gone on to an amazing career at Framingham State, just took over as head football coach this past year. Like Mike DeCenzo, people like that who, like your brother Chris, who did just an amazing job, right? The great kids who understood the program and wanted to help, like Nick Desjardins, right? Imagine,
awesome.
Nicky's been in and still coaching with us, luckily, And you find guys who are committed, like Dave Wilcox, who is now our head coach, who's been with me for years and years and years. You find people and you teach them. It's not yell and scream, but they're going to be committed. If they don't understand what it's really about, then it's not going to work. If they're just about wins and losses, not that that's not important, but if that's what they're really just about, they're not about educating the student and understanding what this athlete, what can I do to make this athlete a better person? If they weren't that, then it's not on the right thing. So you seek that first. You seek, do I have any teachers in the school? Because it's great to have teachers in the school who can check on the student.
Absolutely.
Right? So that always helps. That's a good advantage to have. And it's good to have a lot of, and also some, again, diversity in opinion too. Mm-hmm. I don't want just yes men, right?
Yeah, and that's important. It's how you grow.
Right. And I think that as as people, like how do we develop coordinators ultimately get people, and the process you went through. Mm-hmm. The same thing. If I see people who were there, you need to have the confidence. I have to see people who are actually confident that they can do the job, and they're not just going to, they're not just doing it because they want to be popular and I want to be the guy, but I think I can do this, and I think I can be good at this because I'm willing to work hard at it. So if I see someone who's working hard, who's confident, and who has that, that sort of drive, I think that usually is what leads to that. And it's something that I can, as long as they understand that this is, it's still, the program is about, what we do best for the kids, and again, how we set that up. And so the team, the coaches are, they have to have those qualities. It's hard to find people like that. It is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's hard to find good coaches. And I'm lucky. I'm looking at even the staff now, some of the great guys you hired, Matt O'Loughlin, who's now the head coach at Arlington High.
Yeah.
A great guy, and, a great coach. And again, we lost Will Cobb, who did a great job and worked hard. Sometimes we have to, step back. Again, as I said, you have people like Jimmy Rabbit at KIPP Academy, who's done a great job up there.
Yeah, he's going to be on very soon. He's going to be a guest.
He really wanted to be a coordinator, and I made him sort of wait till I think he understood more and more what it really means to be a coordinator. And when he did, I gave him some of the rope to be a coordinator. With me, obviously, at first, as you know, I did it with you, with me having some say.
Absolutely.
Me having the background. So I think that gives him a way to ease into it a little bit and learn how to do it. So I can say, hey, look, so on that play, here's what you should be thinking. Why'd you do that? You should have done this or thought this way, right? And I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's when it's been most successful, and that's what happened, I think, with Ainsley as he worked his way and wanted to be the coordinator. And I said, but, we're going to do this together, et cetera. And he developed his own style ultimately, and, so on and so forth. And same with you.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing. I think, for you to make those steps, I think in any occupation in life, right? Like you have to be open-minded to be able to listen to somebody who's been there and done it, and to make them start thinking or get you to start thinking about things that you didn't quite think of. And I remember being a head coach and, talking to Dave Wilcox one year and talking to Will Cobb another year, saying to them, all right, if we don't get this, think about what you're running next. Or if we're a little short on third down here, we go to fourth, we're going for it. So start thinking of your plays. Think 2 plays. I got 2 plays to get this first down, right? And defensively, it was the same thing. I felt like a lot of times you taught me how to send pressure versus not sending pressure, or when to man up, or when to kind of give a different look, or throw something different.
It's good to have someone on that role too. And Phil Kniff, for years, coaching me, would say, hey, sir, think about this. Keep this in your mind, right? When can you run that? And he'd come up in my ear and say that stuff. And he knew how to do it. He knew how to say that to me and put that in. And I'd say, hey, what do you think about this? He'd say, this is the time, do it. And so we do it then. It's good to have people like that who keep you, just not saying, hey, run this play, run that play, run this play, but rather saying, hey, look, here's what's going on, who know how you think and want, and it can help you see something that you can't see. Because we get so caught up emotionally in the game sometimes, Anthony, it's hard to step back and see it. And so we don't think ahead. What's going to happen if this happens? What's going to happen if this happens? And because as much as you prepare, because as you know, I was a scripter. I love scripting plays, et cetera, on offense, et cetera. As much as you script those plays, things aren't always going to go the way you plan. And like you said, trying to stop 3 plays on defense, I learned that reading a book about Belichick when he was defensive coordinator in New York for the Giants years ago. And he said he sets out to stop the 3 most dangerous plays of the other team. And don't let them run those, and force them to run something they don't. And if they, most teams won't do that. Most teams will stick with that. Yeah. And so, that's how, those are the process, and that has to be the mindset that you decide that's how I want to coach. Some people have a different mindset of it, but it's fine as long as you're committed to it. Certainly a lot more coaches have had a lot more success than me. So,
well, and I think, and this kind of you saying that falls into the next part. The one thing that I loved about coaching with you, and a lot of people don't know about you, is that, Arlington Catholic is a small, Catholic school in the CCL large, but not like, it's not like with BC High and Catholic Memorial and those schools. It's, co-ed schools, it's in the large, right? But you had no fear of taking on anybody. I mean, my first year of coaching, you guys took on Catholic Memorial, who was 4th in the state. And, most people look at that and say we had no business even playing a team like that. And we got tackled at the 1-yard line and lost in game by like 3 points and could have knocked off the number 4 team in the state. So, a lot of times you look at coaches and you look at records, and then you kind of look at schedule. Not a lot of coaches played the off-season, the out-of-league schedule, the non-conference games that you played. You played bigger, stronger, tougher teams to get you ready for your conference. Do you feel like that's a risk as a head coach of maybe not starting the season off the right way and the confidence isn't there, and then going ahead and playing your league? Or do you feel like the risk is worth the reward if you are playing these tougher physical teams early on and then get a league that's not as tough?
It's definitely a double-edged sword, Anthony. When I was a young, sort of arrogant coach in the sense. I'm like, we can play anywhere. We can play, do this. We can do that.
Like Fresno State, right?
We were actually in the small then. We were a smaller school. We were in the Catholic small. And I said, I want to be in the big. I don't want to play in the small. When you're playing teams like Dom Savio, which Billy Maraday was coaching.
Yeah, great coach.
That's the other great thing about coaching. The guys you need, Woodsy, Al Costable, Billy Kinshirf. I mean, Ron St. George, amazing guys, amazing coaches that you get to, coach with in your league year after year, Bill Marcagiani going back. But, I was like, I want to play in the big league. I think we can do it. I said, we're starting to grow as a school. We can do it. Well, we've never done that before. The school was a little worried. I said, no, let's do it. So we made a commitment to that. And in 1993, we, as I said, we won the Super Bowl in the Lodge. And, and so I believe that always, that if you commit to that and you believe in it, that you can do that. And if kids see that you're playing good competition, you also can draw football players.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The problem is you also have to understand and know, though, what you have. Like I wouldn't dare have played Catholic Memorial, because I always say we're going to get beat bad by speed, but if guys are way too physical, now you might be putting them in danger. But when I played Catholic Memorial, I knew that we had kids who were tough enough and physical enough. Even though we weren't a great team, we were tough enough and physical enough to play them.
Yeah.
And so as we got more talented, I said, we can start playing Cambridge with Ray Doucette at the quarterback, and
I remember
Academy,
that.
the Westwood Academy, and, teams like that, and Arlington High, right? Which when we made a commitment to play Arlington High on game day, they were loaded. We had never beat Arlington, right? We had never beat Arlington. And so, that was, Arlington was a Division I team. And people say, are you crazy? And I'm saying, like, no, we might lose these games, but we're going to fight, And so you got to convince kids of that. And then as that changed, all of a sudden it became, we could beat Arlington.
Yeah, Coach, and what I love about it is, it's a life thing, right? Like you're teaching and coaching young men, and you're talking about teachers and having people in the school, and a lot of those coaches you named, the common theme was they're educators outside of football, and they understand the whole child, and they understand the whole teenager, and they understand that it's not just about that game on the field, it goes beyond. And I think you gave kids life lessons. Even as a coach, when I started out there, I remember hearing that game at first being like, what was coach thinking? But by the end of the week and how hard those kids practice and how much you got them fired up, like for me, it fired me up, like even beyond football, like at my job, and being like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And I think when you you build that mentality inside of a teenager at a young age, you're molding adolescence. And I think that's why I love coaching so much, because football is a thing of life. A lot of the commitment that you make to a football team is the commitment you make to your family, is the commitment you make to your wife, is the commitment you make to your work. And like those traits carry on. So like when I hear you say this stuff, and you've been talking about this, the biggest thing we're going to connect this with is that these are all skills that kids need in life. These are all skills that kids take on with them to get that job or get that promotion or to have that life that they want.
That's right. I always say there's almost nothing. I mean, sports in general does this, but football more than anything, the discipline, the grind, the toughness, the teamwork, the commitment, the dedication to others, the going beyond yourself and thinking about others, and how those are lessons that that amazingly, when parents come up and say, they won't listen to me, but if you tell them this, they'll listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, because they love football and they want to play.
But what a compliment! I mean, what a compliment to you as a man, right? I mean, for them to be like, my son's gonna listen to you. We need you because what you say is gonna influence him. Like that's incredible. I mean, it's incredible.
And it's a great thing as a teacher, and that's. What I've been for almost 40 years now as a teacher. As a teacher, you want to help young people grow up to be responsible adults,
right?
Right? Who contribute to society, who become great parents, and or great, whatever it is, and who become great workers, who work hard, who support their family, who raise children, etc. Those things, and you see those carry on. You get to see and see your children.
Yeah.
It's just such a joy to me, and it's true of so many. I see sometimes some of the players bring their kids down to the game. I've coached
Players' kids. Yeah.
dozens of kids whose parents I coached.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's such a great thing. That's a joy. That's one of the funnest things in coaching, is when you get to coach the child of someone you coach.
It's amazing. Yeah. And, football is just such a family thing. I mean, you mentioned my kids. I have 1.5-year-old twins, Anthony Jr. and Ruby, boy, girl, and my wife, my beautiful wife, Jenna, we've been married 9 years. And it's going to lead me to kind of like one of the last questions I want to talk to you about is, football's a commitment. We talked about the off season and, going to coaching clinics and going to workouts and 7-on-7s and going to spring practices and, meeting as coaches. You're doing that stuff in your off season. So not only are you committing and grinding really from August, whatever, to Thanksgiving and sometimes beyond, but you're also doing it in the off season, and your family, you're a family man. You are a very religious man. And that's one thing I really admire about, with my family. I think about my wife and the commitment she with me, knowing that something meant so much to me and I committed so much time to it. And you've done it way longer than I have. You've done it literally double the amount of years I have. And, to see that you have an amazing son who's so special and, is a phenomenal singer and great kid. And, your wife's amazing, and what kind of sacrifices as a coach to run this type of program that you want are you making at the home front?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to balance, Anthony, as you know.
Yeah.
You've been through it. It's not easy to balance because, when you're a teacher, you make so much commitment to your players and to your students and all that stuff. But you have commitments, like you said, at home, of children, etc. Of course, I was lucky, and it's important that you have support for this from your family, but that you also understand the sacrifice it takes from them too. I was lucky to have my son, even though he wasn't a football player, he grew up being a ball boy for me since he was 6-7 years old.
Absolutely.
He was on the sideline every game. And then when he grew up and went to high school, he decided he didn't want to play football. He was my manager, my team manager.
Yep.
And I had him on the sideline with me every single game. And what a great experience that was, to have that. And again, I can't thank, I can't thank God, and I cannot thank anyone enough the gift that it's been, and the gift I had to be able to do this and to have this in my life. And coaching football was such an amazing, joy, and I consider it a vocation. I miss it sometimes, but I'm still involved. I still stay involved. As you know, I went and helped out a little bit last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, it's a blessing that so many people have been lucky enough to have you in their lives to influence them, in such a positive way. What's your advice? And I don't mean this just for football coaches in general. I'm talking head coaches, coordinators, assistant coaches in any sport. What's some advice you have for young coaches trying to make a career of this that it would be valuable for them to carry with them into those next stages of their career?
Yeah. And Anthony, it's such a tough decision. And it's a lot of work, but the joy that comes from it, as I said, I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world that I've been able to be involved and do this for so long, to I love the teaching. I love the coaching, and obviously now I'm still involved in the athletic aspect of all of this. I still coach baseball. So that, that's a major part, of it too. But all these things, you, you look at all the work and time and effort you put in, and you say, is it worth it? For me, the answer is always yes. Of course it was worth it. Of course it was worth it, because if my vocation is to teach and to be part of that, and I feel that's my vocation, then could I have a better avenue to have done it? I don't think so.
Right.
So I would say to young people that you have to make sure that you really, you obviously love the game, and that you're a teacher, and that you really want to teach. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard and difficult, because it is. But of course, as we say in football, there's nothing that's worth anything if you don't have to struggle and put effort in.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? It's a struggle. It takes effort. But that's the greatness. That's why there's great reward in it. And it's difficult when you have tough, bad seasons. It's hard. And so you have to always reflect back on why you're doing this. What's your purpose? Did you accomplish any of that? How? Why? What are you teaching kids in losing?
Right. Absolutely.
Right? What are you teaching kids when they don't succeed? What are so those are all the things that, go through you. And I think that young people, this is a great opportunity to get involved in coaching. And you did it yourself. You became, a teacher. And again, one of the top teachers around. You got your award.
Wow, yeah.
I'm so proud of you. But that's what it takes. It takes a person who really wants to be a teacher on the field, a teacher in the classroom, whatever. Sometimes you're just a teacher. You don't have a job in the class. Maybe you have another job, but you're a teacher at heart. And you want to teach people how to play the game of football, but not just that, how to be good people.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And ultimately, that's what you're doing. What are you teaching people to be a good person? Because ultimately, then that's what it's really about. What kind of person are you? And what kind of person do you want to convey and teach young people to be?
Yeah, and I think, Coach, for you, it's a testament, being around Arlington Catholic as long as I've been with my brothers and coaching and everything else. The one thing I notice in sports and in that school in particular is always football players or past football players showing up to practice, showing up at the school, wanting to help out with the team, looking for you, donating things to help you with the program. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see it in a lot of other places, and I haven't seen it in a lot of other programs. So hearing you say all that, Coach, like, mission accomplished. I think mission accomplished for what you set out to do and the type of person that you are. And, that's great advice for young people. And I love when you say what happens when they fail.
I just did some stuff with my lawyer, Mike Callahan.
Yeah,
Mike was a
former
great player for me, of course.
Yeah, former coach too.
Former coach, yeah.
Yeah, so it's great. And so, Coach, we're gonna end with a segment here. It's called the 2-minute drill, okay? And I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of questions. The one catch to this game is that I get one booth review. So if there's an answer that you give and I want you to explain a little bit more, I'll give you a minute to explain it, okay? So I'm gonna start the timer. It's gonna be 1 second to do it, and we will be ready to go. So, are you ready, Coach?
I'm ready.
Offense is on the field. Coach got the play, and here we go. Coach, favorite pizza topping?
Sausage.
Okay. Favorite number to wear in a sport?
25.
Okay. Best football player you've ever coached at Arlington Catholic?
Oh, the most talented, Jonathan Gilo.
I agree. Biggest win outside of your 2 Super Bowl victories?
The first game I ever coached.
I love it. Toughest coach you've ever coached against, Coach?
Oh, boy. Toughest coach. Wow. I think Billy Maraday, probably. There's so many of them. Al Costabile, Dave Woods. But I think Billy Maraday may be the toughest.
What's the Patriots' record this year?
1-0.
What do you think it's going to be at the end of the year?
I'm going to say 12-4.
Okay. Favorite sports movie of all time?
Um, it's a toss-up. Remember the Titans and Rudy.
Wow. Two good movies. Okay. Favorite or better actor, Leonardo DiCaprio or Bradley Cooper?
Boy, Cooper's been coming up lately, and DiCaprio's had some bad movies lately. But I think going just for his longevity, DiCaprio.
Okay. Coach, this is a big question, and I may throw the flag on this one. Better Super Bowl team, 93 or 2008?
Wow. Can I throw the flag on that? As you know, the 93 team, because it was the first.
All right, I'm throwing the flag. I'll give you a minute to explain it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the incredible, we actually shut out every single team in the league. We had 6 shutouts that year, and every team in the league we shut out. And that great defense, just that relentless pursuit to the ball, that intent. I knew we were going to be good from the beginning when we played Arlington in the scrimmage at the beginning of the year, and just were all over the place. Boom. And I said, this team is going to be good. And I knew it, even though we had come through a couple of, so-so season the year before. I knew it. They just wanted to play. They wanted to run. They wanted to hit, and everyone bought in. It was a great, again, everyone bought into the program. It was great. 2008, we got to play on Gillette Stadium, and I'm going in saying, all right, it's a football field, guys, as you walk in. But then I'm walking in and saying, oh my God, this is the sideline. This is where Bill Belichick stands.
I love it. Yeah, I was there. I mean, I saw the 93 team play. I mean, I've always been intrigued by the offensive matchup between 2008 versus the 93 defense. I think that would have been an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, sure would have.
The 93 team is, I like to call them the 72 Dolphins when, they stick together.
The great Dana Doolin, Trooper Mike Murphy at quarterback, and Ryan Soderquist, the hockey coach at Bentley. Jeff Hauge.
So, Coach, I got 38 seconds left on the clock for you. I'm going to resume the clock here. I got a few more questions for you. We'll try to get them in. Would you prefer having your front 5 return on offensive line, or would you rather prefer having all your linebackers return the next year?
Wow. You can't replace linebackers. They're most important.
I'm with you.
I love the offensive line, but you can't replace line. If you have great linebackers, you can be a good football team.
Okay, Coach, if you had a chance to get any dinner handed to you right now, cooked for you, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I have to give a little shout out. Last night, I went out to a place called Twirl, and they made homemade pasta. Ooh. I like ravioli with bolognese sauce and some meatballs and sausages in there. That'd probably be my top.
All right, last question, Coach. You get to come out of retirement for 1 year to coach any sport. I'll give you 2. Would you rather coach a season of football or coach a season of baseball?
Wow, that's a tough one too. I love baseball. I was a baseball player.
Yeah.
And I, as I said, I still coach baseball. But in high school, coaching high school football, there is nothing like it. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
I agree.
And the whole, not just the aura around it, the teamwork, the energy, the things that you can create and build. Not that you can't do that somewhat in baseball, but in football and high school, it is the most amazing feeling in the world to do that.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on for the first episode. Just listening to you is just like, it's just unbelievable stuff. I hope that, these young coaches and these young people that are listening really take the words that you say very valuably. And it's just an honor to have you on here. It was a great segment, and I hope to have you on here in the future. I'd love to have you on here again.
I'd love to. Thank you so much. And I encourage anyone who is considering getting into coaching, give it a try. It's been, a great experience for me. And I think we need, football in Massachusetts needs good coaches. We need good coaches who are going to, really work hard, and because, we have some forces trying to push football out a little bit,
Yeah.
and we need some good coaches to help this survive and thrive.
Absolutely. It's more than just a game. It's a mindset, and it's a character building type game. So I'm with you. For high school football, is special to me. It's a special part of my life at 20 years, 25 years later. So, Coach, thank you so much. We're so lucky to have you, and we'll talk in the near future for sure. But from beyond the X's and O's, we are out. Thank you.
Thank you.